Our first Ask Your Pastor question at St. John's Lutheran Church came to us from Kay. And here's the question. Every week I drive past the men and women holding signs on corners of busy intersections asking for handouts for various reasons spelled out on their cardboard signs. I have rarely given any money to them, but always feel guilty when I drive past them. You hear that you aren't supposed to give them money because they'll just buy drugs or booze. If a person gave anyway, despite the true or untrue warnings, you'd go broke. They are everywhere I drive, it seems. How should a Christian act when thinking about whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, you do unto me? Quoting Jesus there at the end of the question. Thanks, Kay. Not her real name. Thank you, Kay, for your question. We'll keep these questions anonymous. So it is an excellent question. It's a question is a challenge for Christians in our society and our culture today, and probably has been in previous cultures and societies as well. One of the things that certainly fits right into this question that came to mind for me was the words of Christ himself in Matthew 26:11. You will always have the poor among you. And this is a sad reality of a broken world in which we live. So that part of your question, that they are everywhere you drive, indeed, the poor are among us, and they always will be. That's part of this. Now, should we give or shouldn't we give? And I think that the legitimate concern that you expressed there of people misusing what you give them is a valid concern. Two of the teachings of Christ that come into play in this question. One is love your enemy. That's hard to do. So as we talk about these people who are asking for handouts, who are asking for help, who are asking for aid, who are asking for assistance, some of them are crooks. Certainly not all of them, and there's no way to know how many or what percentage, but certainly some of them are. And that's unfortunate. But those would fall under the category of love your enemy. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If your enemy is thirsty, give him something to drink. This is good to do, to love our enemy. That also fits under love your neighbor. We are to love our neighbor. And so all of these people, whether they're legitimate or not, they are all our neighbor. And we should love each and every one of them. Now the question of how you do it is a different question. Some Christians today have tried to avoid the fear of alcohol or drugs by not giving money, but actually responding to maybe perhaps a particular need on the sign, or just stopping and getting to know a person in the situation and see if they can help a specific situation. Just as an example, go to a restaurant, buy some food, or go to a grocery store and buy some food and give it to them instead of giving them cash. Or if they're asking for gas money, Quick Trip here in town has a gas-only card that could be used. Whatever the situation might be, maybe they're looking for a place to stay. Maybe that's their greatest need, and you can help them to find shelter for an evening or a couple of evenings, as there's places in town perhaps that they could stay at. These are ways that you can love your neighbor and at the same time not feel the concern over, well, what if I just harm them? Because in reality, if you give them money and they are going to abuse it, then that will harm them. And that's not loving their neighbor. If they have an addiction and they're only going to use the money to feed their addiction, then we should not just give them money. It's a good concern. It's a valid concern to have. So, remembering again the idea that yes, you would go broke. You very well could go broke. That makes me remember the rich young ruler who shows up in multiple gospel accounts. Jesus telling him to sell everything and give it all away. God could lay that on us to do as well. But maybe more connected would be the early church. You can see in Acts chapter 2, specifically here verses 44 and 45, where the believers had everything in common. And whenever anyone was in need, they sold from their belongings so that they could meet the need of their neighbor. some things for you to chew on. I don't know that there is a 100% foolproof right answer. We are sinners in a broken world, but we are loved by Christ. We are forgiven. We are redeemed, as is our neighbor. And so we love them as Christ has loved us. That can take different forms, and it can happen in different ways. Thanks again for the question.